Hey everyone, so August is going to be a pretty chunky month in terms of books. I'm going to be reading 6 books and pretty much all of them are over 500 pages. So how am I going to have time to fit all these books in? Well, spoiler alert, my wife and I are going to be actually going on an 11-day cruise to Alaska. So plenty of natural beauty, plenty of sitting on the deck and eating buffets and reading good books. So let's talk about all the books I'm going to read August 2024. Hey everyone, welcome back. I am Nikhil with Shelf-Esteem. I'm a composer and also now booktuber. You can find some of my music in The Wheel of Time Season 2, his Dark Materials Season 3, and the official Brent Weeks companion album for his series Lightbringer that came out last year. So I wanted to take this time to talk a little bit about all the books I'm going to be reading in August. And please let me know in the comments also what your TBR is, because, trading book recommendations is the most fun part about this channel. I think it's really great to have a dialogue with you all and kind of trade books and like, hey, you should check out this book. And I've gotten great recommendations from you all as well. So I look forward to continuing the conversation here. But without further ado, let's jump into the first book that I really want to read. So I've been kind of trying to make my way through Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere, which is basically a kind of a universe of his books where he has certain standalones and series that are all kind of connected as they take place on different planets in this Cosmere universe. So I've been trying to make my way through the Cosmere in time for The Wind and Truth, which is the final Stormlight Archive book in this first cycle. So he has 10 planned for release, and the first 5 constitute one cycle, and then the second 5 constitute another arc. So the first arc is going to be the 5th book and the final one in that first arc. So I'm really looking forward to reading that when it comes out in December, and I want to be well versed in all the Cosmere connections so I don't miss out on any of the Easter eggs or kind of more heavy-handed stuff that Sanderson is more likely to put in this 5th and final book. So I'm really looking forward to that, and to celebrate that, I'm going to be reading Warbreaker. And spoiler alert, I actually have already kind of started because I wanted to get a jump on the month because I knew it's going to be a chunky month. The first few pages that I've read so far, I'm really loving it. It's one of the most unique magic systems I've ever seen. And for those of you who have not read Brandon Sanderson, he does a lot of very hard magic systems with hard and fast rules. And he builds out his world using them. And so it's kind of a different approach to fantasy than some of the other fantasy series like, say, the First Law universe by Joe Abercrombie, right? Or the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. So it's kind of very much a fantasy lover's fantasy novel. I'm really looking forward to continuing that one. But that is the first book that I'm reading in August. Now, the second book I'm going to be reading, I literally have heard about this author's name for a while now. And it's yet another fantasy book, and that is Guy Gavriel Kay. I've heard he is kind of an author's author. He has beautiful prose. Beyond that, I know nothing about his books. I know nothing about what they're about, and I've pulled up the description for the second book I'm going to be reading in August, which is The Lions of Al-Rasan. I have not read this description yet, and so I'm going to be reading it out loud, and we're going to be experiencing it kind of together. So I know nothing about this, but this is one that has come highly recommended from a lot of different friends of the channel, and then also a fellow booktuber, Josh from Red Fury Books, who I love his channel. I'm linking it down below in case you haven't checked it out, but fantastic channel, and he was also raving about this book, so I figured, okay, this would be a good starting place for GGK, so I'm going to read that description now for you. So it says, the ruling Asherites of Al-Rasan have come from the desert sands, but over centuries, seduced by the sensuous pleasures of their new land, their stern piety has eroded. The Asherite Empire has splintered into decadent city-states, led by warring petty kings. King Al-Malik of Kartada is on the ascendancy, aided always by his friend and advisor, the notorious Anmar ibn Kayran. Sorry about the pronunciations, you guys. Poet, diplomat, soldier, until a summer afternoon of savage brutality changes their relationship forever. Meanwhile, in the north, the conquered Jadites' most celebrated and feared military leader, Rodrigo Belmonte, driven into exile, leads into his mercenary company south. In the dangerous lands of Al-Rasan, these two men from different worlds meet and serve for a time the same master. Sharing their interwoven fate and increasingly torn by her feelings is Jehane, the accomplished court physician whose own skills play an increasing role as Al-Rasan is swept to the brink of holy war and beyond. So this is another kind of a fantasy book that I've never actually read. I have not read stuff that is influenced by medieval Spain. So I'm kind of really excited to explore this world, and it seems very unique. So I'm looking forward to kind of diving into some GGK. And let me know in the comments if you read this book and what your thoughts are. Spoiler free for anyone else who hasn't read it, of course. And if there are any other GGK books that you'd recommend, because I always want to have my TBR be way too long for me to ever possibly finish it in 10 lifetimes. So that's the second book that I'm going to be reading. Now I'm just pulling up my list here. The third book I'm going to be reading is a buddy read. And that buddy read I've kind of alluded to in a previous weekly update. I think I had mentioned I'd been speaking with John from Disquieting Dragons, who's just a fantastic booktuber, and I'm linking to him down below. And we'd read A Royal Assassin, which is the second book in the Farseer trilogy, the second book in the Realm of the Elderlings 16-book series by Robin Hobb. Loving the journey so far. I've been very eager to pick up the third book. And this one is going to be a read-along, kind of a buddy read, with both John from Disquieting Dragons and Ellie from Bibbidi Bobbidi Books, who I'm also linking below. And that book is called Assassin's Quest. So that's going to round out the Farseer trilogy, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. I think it promises to be like the longest book in the Farseer trilogy. It's like 830 something pages. So I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing how this fits his story, at least for this particular arc, concludes. I'm always looking forward to doing more discussions and kind of group reads, because that's the most fun part about the channel for me. Like I'd done a couple of live streams a couple weeks ago, both with John from Disquieting Dragons, one with Cliff's Dark Gems, and being able to talk about books is like the most fun part about this channel for me. And so I'm really looking forward to speaking with those both of those wonderful booktubers as well. So that is going to be the third book I'm going to be reading. Now, I've been talking a lot about fantasy, so let's break it up a little bit. I'm going to be reading a Stephen King book. However, here's the twist. I'm kind of having trouble deciding, and I'm trying to decide between 3 different books. So I figured I would open it up to you all. Let me know in the comments if you have a thought on any of these 3 books and which one should I read in August. And I'll kind of base it based on your recommendations, because I really want to make it a dialogue, and I want to read the stuff that you also want to kind of see reviews of. Because, I've noticed that a lot of Stephen King fans have been taking to this channel, which I'm really grateful for, because he's my favorite author of all time. I got a whole shelf back there dedicated to the man. So, I always want to kind of tailor content based on the kinds of things that you would enjoy. And so I'm going to be doing a dedicated review of this book, whichever one we choose together. And so one of the 3 books is going to be Dreamcatcher. And then I'm trying to choose between that one and Black House, which is the sequel to The Talisman, which I read a couple years ago and I absolutely loved. And the third one is Different Seasons, which is the novella collection, which has, I believe, 4 novellas, if I remember correctly. There's Shawshank Redemption, Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. There is The Body, which was adapted into the 80s film Stand By Me. There is Apt Pupil, and there's The Breathing Method. So I don't know too much about this, other than, of course, I've seen Shawshank, I've seen Stand By Me, so I'm looking forward to seeing how the original source material is for those. And the other 2 I've heard great things about as well. So yeah, I'm trying to decide between those 3, Dreamcatcher, Black House, and Different Seasons. So let me know in the comments which one you think I should read. I'm going to be kind of taking a poll here, and perhaps we can kind of choose it together. So that is going to be the 4th book I'm going to be reading. So now going back to fantasy, I've been hearing about Janny Wirtz for the longest time, and she has this 11-book series called The Wars of Light and Shadow. And I've been wanting to get into a larger fantasy series, but as you can tell, I kind of have my hands full with, finishing off The First Law, kind of starting a John Gwynne series later this year with the Bloodsworn Saga, and then kind of reading through Dresden Files. I'm still reading through the Realm of the Elderlings. I'm still reading through the Cosmere. So I don't want to kind of jump into another 11-book series, that fast. So I figured, okay, maybe I'll try to find a standalone of Janny Wirtz. And I found To Ride Hell's Chasm. So I don't know too much about this book. So I'm going to pull up the description here, because I really want to kind of experience it together. Kind of instant reaction. So let's see what this one's about. When Princess Anja fails to appear at her betrothal banquet, the tiny peaceful kingdom of Sicily is plunged into intrigue. 2 warriors are charged with recovering the distraught king's beloved daughter. Taskin, commander of the royal guard, whose icy competence and impressive life term as the crown's right-hand man command the kingdom's deep-seated respect, and Michael, the rough-hewn newcomer who has won the post of captain of the garrison, a scarred veteran with a deadly record of field warfare, whose interesting background and foreign breeding are held in contempt by court society. As the prince's trail vanishes outside the citadel's gates, anxiety and tension escalate. Michael's investigations lead him to a radical explanation for the mystery, but he finds himself under suspicion from the court's factions. Will Commander Taskin's famous fair-mindedness be enough to unravel the truth behind the garrison captain's dramatic theory that the resourceful, high-spirited princess was not taken by force, but fled the palace to escape a demonic evil? That is a really interesting premise, and it seems like there's a little bit of a mystery to boot. I love mystery in fantasy. It's one of my favorite things about fantasy. When it's done right and it's executed well, it really just I love seeing a mystery unfold throughout a book. And the fact that this is a standalone, I'm really looking forward to checking it out. I think it's a pretty big book. I'm looking at it. It's about 700 pages in mass market paperback. So yet another chonker, of course. And I've heard her books are meant to be sipped and savored, kind of like Robin Hobbs, in the sense that, the prose is beautiful and you don't want to kind of rush things. So I'm going to be spending some of the cruise reading that one, I think. So that is the 5th book. Now, the 6th book, I'm trying to think about doing a Western because it's like the summer, kind of in the heat, in the sunshine. It's kind of fun to read something that feels like the weather, if that makes sense. And I live in LA, a lot of dry heat, so, I kind of figured it would be kind of fun to read a Western. And the one that I chose, I was trying to decide between two. There's Larry McMurtry's Lonesome Dove, of course, and there's also Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. So I've heard great things about both of these books. The only thing is Lonesome Dove is like 1,000 pages long. I don't know if I'm honestly going to have time, and I don't want to rush, all these other great books I have on this list. So I'm leaning kind of towards Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. And that one's only, 200-300 pages. It's very dark and bleak. And, it's kind of a Western tale. So I figured that would be a really good one to check out. But let me know in the comments if you think, absolutely you got to read Lonesome Dove first. And maybe I'll just sleep a little less on the cruise, Just let me know what you think about that one. But I've been kind of wanting to decide between the two. And they're dramatically different, I've heard, from both the way they're executed and, of course, the length of those two books. So, yeah, let me know in the comments. So that concludes my 6 August reads. Let me know also about, kind of what you're planning on reading this month and what you're most excited about. If you were to rank your books, what are you most excited about to least excited about? And let's continue the conversation. I always want to have these great dialogues with you about the books that we're very excited about reading. So with that, please be good to yourselves. Please be good to each other. I'm Nikhil with Shelf-Esteem. Please like and subscribe if you like this kind of video and you want to see more of it. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.